Essentially, we are a consumer protection agency. What we do is to ensure that the consumer gets good value for money and also gets good service. So the markets were indulging in some practices that were not palatable and are not in agreement with our laws. We had no choice but to go and look at what they are doing and get them right. For instance, we went on just some spot checks, which we normally do, and we realized that some supermarkets display different prices on the shelf, and when you go to pay for the item, it's a different price that you pay. We therefore decided that this is something that is against the law, is deceptive, and anything false, misleading or deceptive falls under our law, and we have to find ways of looking at that and curbing it. So that is one of the things that we're looking at. Also, issue of counterfeiting, because we have a lot of fake products in the market, and our law says whenever we see anything counterfeit, we are free to evacuate. So when we found some rice that obviously was not produced by the supposed company that's supposed to have produced it, we evacuated it from the supermarket. We also found out that there are some supermarkets that are tampering with expiry dates of their goods. So that one also, we had no choice but to evacuate from the market. And anything to do with such practices that we find as sharp or false or misleading or deceptive, we'll go ahead and do what we're supposed to do. Essentially, that's what took us into the supermarket space. But then our job is transcends much beyond that. It's not only in the formal markets, we also are looking at the informal sector. So we're looking at markets. We went to Masaka sometime last week, and we also planned to go to Gosa. But more importantly, our state offices have been asked to now go to at least 4 different markets in each of the states under which over the oversight. And I'm talking about the Southwest, for instance. We have an office in Oshobo that oversees all activities in the Southwest. An office in Oka looks at the Southeast, in Port Harcourt for the South. And for the Northwest, we have an office in Katsina. We're talking of 7 states under that zone. We have the 6 states in the Northeast, as well as North Central, in which we have an office in Mina. So these offices will now go to 4 different markets in each of the states. That way, we would look at these markets, informal markets, and find out what is actually going on there. This is addressed by the fact that we carried out the market study to know or make us knowledgeable on what is happening in that distance between the farm and the fork. Of course, we look at the transport that is involved. We look at the quality of the roads that Nigeria has nowadays. People, of course, made reference to the fact that diesel now costs a whole lot, the subsidy removal on petroleum products, the dollar rate, the issue of costs as it pertains to inputs into the market produce itself, such as fertilizers, such as herbicides, pesticides. So all these are things that we looked at, and then came to the market themselves to find that they have associations. These associations more or less have formed themselves into cartels, and they dictate prices. They prevent new entry into the market, which is against the law. So these are all things that we're looking at and trying to see how we can land it. It's a long process, quite all right, but it's yielding results, because the major aim is to ensure that the costs of the price of goods in the market comes down, and we're glad to report that it is by now coming down. Yes, it is nice if people appreciate the thing that you do, but in as much as you know what you are doing is for the good of the people, which will always give assurance that we are doing for the good of the people. The issue of markets are something that you don't go into blindly. You have to, of course, indulge in a lot of market studies to find out what's going on first. We depend on empirical data, provable data, and it's not easy to come by in Nigeria. You have to go and look for it yourself. And that's what we are doing all this while. That's why you may think that what we are doing is reactionary. It's not. We had to work underground first before our action is now seen. we have to work based on something that we have proven. And this is something that we have seen and discovered by ourselves, and now are trying to apply the law. But look at it also from this angle. Issue of the bad road, for instance, is beyond the Fccpc. The best we can do is advise government, please make sure we do better in road construction. The government is doing better. We all know that. We know that the new hope agenda of Mr. President is achieving results, and we are seeing that things are getting better infrastructure-wise. So, issue of multiple checkpoints on the road. You have local governments, checkpoints collecting money. You have state governments doing their own. You have the other security agencies also doing their own. All these are really beyond us. The best we can do is, since there is a ministerial committee that's also working on these fair market prices, we now report that ministerial committee. It goes ahead to also inform Mr. President, because there's a presidential committee also on fair markets. And the NSA, as well as all security agencies, are part of that presidential committee. So they become aware of the things that are happening. We have succeeded. We have done our own bit. We have drawn government attention to these things, and that's what we're supposed to do. Apart from going to the market ourselves, which we are doing, we're also inviting them to come here for meetings. We just held one this morning with the management of Masaka Market. That's along Kefi Road in Nasarawa State. And the local government chairman himself was here, along with the market management. And we sat them down and talked to them and explained to them. And yes, they gave us a lot of information too that would help us in our job, because there are some things that we didn't know before that really applied in that Masaka Market that now we know. There are something that the chairman himself made assertion to, and these are all things that we cannot take up with our other committees in both the ministry and the presidential committee, as I said earlier, with the support of the minister. So we're working along with the ministry to achieve this. And more importantly, there is now going to be a platform that will now look at prices on a daily basis, hourly basis. You will now know nationwide what the prices of commodities are. Some select commodities, I think about 12 of them, that they have listed. So these prices automatically, they are on that dashboard. The chairman of Kauru local government came along with the market management, and we had very fruitful discussions. We learned from each other, them with the experience that they have with the market, we coming from our own experience of consumers and consumer protection, and reached decisions, so to speak. They will go and speak to these market associations. If you want to buy X, now there's a market, X Sellers Association, Yam Sellers Association, and so on. So these are issues that they want to now go and discuss with the market themselves. Meanwhile, as a chairman of a local government himself, the issue of multiple taxation also came up, and he gave us ideas on how to go about such issues. So all these issues that by the time they go back to their markets and inform them that there is an agency that's very interested in what they are doing and is looking at them, then they normally will sit up. So it's not a one-off thing as you think, because what we do is we go on spot checks, all markets. On market days, most market days, we have our operatives that go to these markets to find out what's actually going on in the market and listen to reports. And once we get these reports, we go back to those markets with those reports and challenge them to find out what's going on. And this is just the beginning. So in law, there is what we call the first-time offender. So we agree that they are first-time offenders, and we just warn them for now. We're just telling them or teaching them how to go about things. But if it continues and become a habit, of course, we will wield the big stick and we'll do what we're supposed to do. What we have is like a full-fledged Directorate of Consumer Business Education. It's beyond just educating the consumer now, it also educates businesses on what their own responsibilities are towards consumers and what the rights of consumers are when it comes to buying their products or getting their services. So these are issues that are ongoing. We know it's never enough. We're talking about 300 members of staff in a population of over 230 million. We're talking of 6 zonal offices in a country that has 36 states and the FCT. And yes, it will not be easy, but luckily for us, nowadays there's the social media. So we have all the social media handles at Fccpc that we interact with the general public on X, on Twitter, on X, on Facebook, all the channels really. And we also have contact at Fccpc that you can lodge a complaint on. We have our website www.fcc.gov.ng. In addition to the 6 offices I've told you about, as well as the state offices that we have in both Lagos and Kano, Kano, yes. And then we have our own head office here in Abuja, 23 Jimikata, Asokoro. People are free to send in their messages, send in their complaints, and even bring physically their complaints or send through the mail. And we look at it and address them. And we make sure that whatever complaint comes to us, we take to their logical conclusions. It is a requirement of our law that we have to go into MOUs with all sector regulators, which we have already done with electricity with the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC. We have done with shipping, the Nigerian Shippers Council. We have done so with some other agencies such as NAFDAC, and we work together. The MOUs clearly specify how we are going to collaborate and work together so that there will not be any friction. The law recognizes that they also have laws concerning consumer protection, which is the same way that we do have. But since we are the apex regulatory body, the law recognizes that we have to work together. Since they have the core competence, we don't. So let us work with their competence and agree on how we should resolve these problems, and that's what we have been doing. We intervene whenever we see any sector in which there are serious issues. We go in and find out what the actual issues are and try to find lasting solutions. You just raised the aviation, for instance. We are working with NCA. In fact, we are at the last stage of our MOU with NCA right now. So issues of delays, of cancellations, of lost bags are issues that we are already talking with NCA on and trying to find lasting solutions to. We don't want to scratch the surface. We want to know what the actual problems are and address the problems rather than addressing the issues. So that's what we are doing with all other sectors, as well as we now have, of course, consumer protection bodies. We have CSOs that we work with. We go into MOUs with them also, we work together. They do most of the work for us and feed us with the information that we need, based on which we now do what we are supposed to do. It helps a lot in that you can't be everywhere all the time. So whenever issues arise, you get the information straight from them. And most times, these CSOs and consumer protection bodies happen to be on ground when things happen. So you have first-hand information that you can use to make your work much easier. That's how the thing goes. Couldn't just seal without giving them their rights to reply. So we went ahead and put just a summons on the door that, look, report to Fccpc. Let us hear your own side of the story before we can take any action. She has come throughout last week, and now beginning today, we have been holding meetings with her. We have gone with her. She opened the shop. That's how we found out this issue of they are selling in yuan, their own Chinese currency. The pricing is also displayed in yuan, and the receipt itself is in yuan. Yeah, so therefore, these are issues that we cannot allow to continue happening because it's not only our law. In fact, it's even the CBN law that says, as you mentioned, you can only use our own currency in our own country. So they cannot come from their own country and start using their currency here. We cannot sit down, fold our arms, and be looking at them. The investigation is still ongoing. Their own embassy has come into it. The China Chamber of Commerce is also into it. We don't have a big relationship with them, and it's beyond just supermarkets really. We're looking at the issues holistically. The loan app issue that we have been pursuing all this while, most of the operators are Chinese. So this gave us now the opportunity to discuss with that embassy on how they could call their nationals to order, so that all these small things that they're doing in this country, they should know that there's an agency of government charged with that responsibility and will sit aloof and allow them to spoil our country. Meanwhile, their country is not like that. You dare not do this kind of thing there. You don't indulge in such behavior there, because with them, capital punishment is like that. So we don't have any capital punishment here, but at least let us know where the law is and make sure that we're on the side of the law. So we ask both their Chamber of Commerce and their embassy to go and inform them, or their nationals, that they have to be very careful in the future and make sure they do the right thing. The same thing they will not do in their country, let them not try it here. We are not that kind of country that would allow anything to happen like that. If it's against the law, we'll go after them. businesses, serious businesses, come into climates in which there is law and there is order and there is rule of law. Once you are from day one sure that the kind of business you want to come into Nigeria with is lawful business and is guided by law and the principles of the law, there's nothing to fear in coming to Nigeria to do your work. I think it should be heartening to businesses to know that there's a regulatory environment here. Because if anything goes, then your business itself is not safe. It means that you come and start doing your product, before you know it, somebody will do a fake version of it and be selling at your own detriment, and there's nothing you can do about it. So if there's a law that's against that, it's something that supports your business. If there's a law that's against any abuse of dominant position in the market, it helps your business. If there's a law that goes against fixing of prices, it helps your business. In case you are bringing your product, which is of higher quality at a lesser cost, is that not an advantage to you that there is such a fair level playing field so you can come and do your business without hindrance? I think what we are doing is good for businesses generally, and it will attract business rather than distract them. I think so. We always tell people that whenever they have any issues, even if you don't want your identity to be disclosed, tell us. And based on that, we have done a lot of investigations and we have found out a lot. So we keep encouraging people, please feel free, tell us. Your safety is assured and your identity is also assured. We wouldn't tell anybody that we got that information from you at all. It is encouraged. Issue of regulations now, if it works, why change it? Our regulations have so far worked because we made sure from the beginning that we have robust regulations that would take care of the Nigerian market. So far, we have not found those regulations wanting, and we know that the way we have been working, if we have any issues, we have a National Assembly committee in both houses, both the law and the upper chambers of the Senate and the House of Reps, and they are there for us. Whenever we have such issues, just a matter of asking for amendments to our regulations or to our rules, and they will look at it from the Act. If it's just regulation, it's in-house. We just look at our regulations and find out whatever is wrong with it, and we are free to look at it and come up with new regulations or revise regulations. Our law allows us to do that. So we don't have any problem with our laws. We believe that they are up to date, and yes, of course, there are other things that came up after the regulations came into force in 2018. Issue of digital markets, for instance. Now we have to regulate that market as well. So when you go online and buy products, of course, since our law did not recognize that earlier, this is something that we now came up with regulations to take care of. We have those regulations now on ground. So if, as I said, there are any emerging markets that we now notice, we go ahead and do what we're supposed to do and ensure that these are also covered by our regulations. If you have any of such complaints, please bring them to us. We have the law, we have the regulations. We'll go ahead and address it and find ways and means of satisfying you. No problem with that. We have the law to back us. There are digital money lenders. So these digital money lenders really come under the auspices of the CBN because they're done under the organization that is in charge of anything financial in this country. But what's really brought us into it is the abuse, and the kind of messages that you are just mentioning, in which since at the point of taking the loan, they ask you to give them permission to get access to your contacts, your photographs, so they can now use these photos and these contacts to start sending all sorts of messages that you have HIV/AIDS, that you are a habitual offender and you are running away from the law. In fact, you have been declared wanted, criminal, you have come from the family of criminals. There's nothing we have not seen. And this has led to people committing suicide. It has led to marriages being broken. It has led to people losing their jobs. So that's what brought us in that space. And when we did so, of course, we brought in CBN to work along with us. They have the core competence. We brought in NIDA, that is in charge of anything to do with data market. We brought in Human Rights Commission, that's in charge of these issues of abuse in between companies and people or between people. about defending the human rights of Nigerians. Of course, we brought in Fcc and even Fccpc to work together, 5 organizations, to now come up with ways and means that we can control that market. What we did first and foremost is to go to both Google and App Store and have those apps brought down. Then through CBN, of course, we blocked their accounts. So they don't have access to their accounts, and if you cannot even repay loans, not talk of getting new loans, of course they run back to us. So we now came up with these interim regulations in which we now know where their addresses are. We now know who their directors are. We have their contacts, and we warn them that no issue of collection of any data from any person who is collecting loan from you. You don't get their pictures, you don't get their contacts. So go ahead, do your business. They must pay when they take their loans, but find other ways of means of getting your loans apart from doing this kind of tactic that you are indulging in. So they now registered under our interim regulations, and whenever they don't release or have such complaints from any quarters now, we are free to block them, of course, again. And since we are working together with Google and App Store, your blocking is just a phone call away. They block you. And since we are working with CBN, blocking of your account in the bank is just a phone call away. They block your account. So based on that, we are sanitizing the market. There are still here and there issues because some people just come into the market without registration and go ahead and start doing business. So we are coming up with the major regulations now that will now take care of that space and address that market. Also the issue of the consumer credit that government just signed on to sometime last week, and it was done by the Vice President. So that market also needs to be regulated, because otherwise there will be ways and means in which Nigerians would find and abuse those systems. Example, issue of your BVN. You want to take a loan. The only thing government needs from you is your BVN, take that loan. What if you give somebody else's BVN? What happens? So all these regulations have come into place. And that is what we are doing. We have started work on that regulation, and it will be very robust and address all these issues for now and for the near future. They think about the fact that we are there just to protect their interest. That's all. There is nothing we have not had. Some people even think that we'll go there to shake the supermarkets down so that we'll go behind and settle. We don't do that. We are here to protect the interests of consumers. All we are trying to do is to make sure that that space is clean. Those distortions in the market are removed so that there will be free entry into the market. Prices would naturally come down. There will be open space for competition. If you have a better product, you sell at a higher price. If you have less quality product, you sell at a lesser cost, but then no room for fake products either. Because if you copy somebody's product and try to sell it as fake, we discover it, we are free to evacuate it from the market, and we do. You can see from that supermarket we took 97 bags of rice, and it's still under investigation. We can't release it because we know that there's something to do with either it's been fake or expired. So either way, it's against the law. So these are issues that we have to now keep trying to convince consumers that no, this is a conversation that's serious, that you can come to, that your issues will be resolved. And that's always the call, and we'll continue and keep calling on that. The essence of this interview is so that you will now go with this to the market and tell people that now there is a serious organization that is looking out for the interests of consumers. When they do anything wrong, they will face the wrath of the law.